All right. Well, Mr. Walker's worked 4 problems with you. I'm going to work 2 more with you just to make sure we can get some strategies on how to solve these. So let's take a look at this example problem right here, number 5. A truck driver drove 35 and 2/10 miles before he stopped for breakfast. He then drove 5 times as far before he stopped for lunch. How far did the driver drive that day before his lunch break? Okay, so what are we looking for? We know that he drove 35 and 2/10 miles before breakfast. He then drove 5 times as far before he stopped for lunch. How far did he drive that day before his lunch break? All right, so we want to know how far he totally drove before lunch during the whole day. So what we know is that first he drove 35 and 2/10 miles. But we also know that he drove 5 times as far as that before lunch. So that's 5 times 35 and 2/10. So we've worked some problems out like this yesterday. So we know what to do. We know we're going to do 5 times 35 and then 5 times 2/10. So we can break this down, and I'm going to do 35 times 5 over here. If you want to draw a picture like Mr. Walker did, that's fine. That helps you. If that helps you see it, you would just have, it would look something like this. You would have your 35 and 2/10, and you would have 35 and 2/10 4 more times, 35 or 5 more times. 35 and 2/10, 35 and 2/10, 35 and 2/10, 35 and 2/10, 35 and 2/10. So this represents how far he drove before breakfast. This represents how far he drove before lunch. So what we want to know is all of these together would tell us how far he drove during the whole day. Okay? So we've got 35 and 2/10 plus 5 times 35 and 2/10 is what it's going to end up being. But we've got to find this first. We've got to find out what is 35 and 2/10 times 5. So let's work on that. So 5 times 35, 5 times 5 is 25. Put our 5 down, carry our 2. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 2 is 17. So 5 times 35 is 175. But now we've got to do 5 times 2/10. So we do 5 times 2 is 10 tenths. Well, how much is 10 tenths? That's the same thing as 1. So 175 and 1 more would be 176. So he drove 176 miles between breakfast and lunch. But before lunch, he drove 35 and 2/10 of a mile. And so if we're looking for how much all of this is together, then I've got to add this much that he drove between breakfast and lunch to this much that he drove before breakfast. So I'm going to write that out down here. 176 plus 35 and 2/10. Now, we're used to seeing them like this, aren't we? 176 plus 35 and 2/10. It's the same thing. We don't have a fraction to add to the 2/10, so we know it's going to be something in 2/10. So let's do 176 times 35. 6 times 5 is 11. 6 plus 5 is 11. Put our 1 down, carry our 1. 1 plus 7 is 8. Plus 3 is 11. Put our 1 down, carry our 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So the answer is, in all, he drove 211 and 2/10 of a mile. So there's a lot of steps in working that problem, isn't there? So he drove this much before breakfast, and then after he left after breakfast, he drove 5 times that much, which is 176 miles. The question wants to know how far did he drive that day before his lunch break. 176 miles plus the 35 and 2/10 gives us 211 and 2/10. Okay, one more, and then I'll let you solve your problems. You've got 6 problems as well that are very similar to these. So thank you for paying attention and watching. All right, this one is a multi-step problem too. A lot of steps to solving it. Mr. Washington's motorcycle needs 5 5/10 gallons of gas to fill the tank. His van needs 5 times as much gas to fill it. If Mr. Washington pays 3 cents per gallon for gas, I wish, or $3 per gallon for gas, never mind, $3 is not so great. How much will it cost him to fill both the motorcycle and the van? All right, so here's what we've got. We've got a van and we've got a motorcycle. We only know, I can't spell, C-L-E, there we go. We only know how many gallons the motorcycle needs. The motorcycle needs 5 5/10 of a gallon to fill the gas tank. We know that the van will hold 5 times as much gas as the motorcycle. So that means the van holds 5 times 5 5/10. Okay? So let's find out how many gallons the van will hold. So just like we did yesterday, let's multiply whole number first. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 5 is 25/10. Okay? So 25 and 25/10. I've got to decompose this. It'll be 10/10. 10/10. That would be 20/10. And 5/10 would be 25/10. So here's 1, 2. So I'm going to add 2 to this. 25 plus 26, 27, and 5/10. All right, so the van holds 27 5/10. The motorcycle holds 5 5/10. But that's not what the question is asking us. The question is asking us, if Mr. Washington pays $3 per gallon for gas, how much will it cost him to fill both the motorcycle and the van? Well, we've got to take these number of gallons they each hold and multiply that times $3. So let's do the motorcycle first. It's the easier one. 5 5/10 gallons times $3 per gallon. So this is how much it's going to cost to fill up the motorcycle. It'll be 3 times 5 would be 15. And then multiply times the fraction. 3 times 5 is 15/10. Let's break that down into 10/10 and 5/10. 10/10 is 1, so 15 and 1 would be 16 and 5/10, or $16.50 is what it would be. All right, now let's do this one. So it costs $3 per gallon, and to fill the van, it holds 27 5/10 gallons. 27 and 5/10 is a half, 27 and a half. We'll just keep it like this for now. 3 times 27. I've got to write that out up here because I can't do that in my head. So 3 times 7 is 21. Put my 1 down. Carry my 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 2 is 8. So this is 81. That's a lot of money to fill that van up. 3 times 15 is, 3 times 5 is 15/10. Let's decompose that to 10/10 and 5/10. So 10/10 is 1. 81 and 1 would be 82 and 5/10. That's had it cost $82, $82.50 to fill up the van. So now we've got this much to fill up the van, this much to fill up the motorcycle, and it says how much will it cost him to fill both. So the final step is we got to add these two together. 82 and 5/10 plus 16 and 5/10. Can you do that? Sure you can. All right. 82 plus 16, if you need to do it like this, write it out on the side. 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. So $98. And then we have 5/10 plus 5/10 is 10/10, which is 1. So we have 98 and 1 more. We have 99. It costs $99 to fill up his van and his motorcycle with gasoline. Now, guys, look at how much work it took to solve that problem. It's a lot of work to figure out how to solve these problems. That's a whole half a page of me working out numbers to figure out that. So don't think you can do these in your head. You're going to have to put the pencil to the paper and work these out, okay? All right, you've seen 6 examples. You've got 6 problems to do. I'll let you get started on it.